Hello and welcome to Jackson's Job. This is the place where things can and often go wrong while baking. You'll see how to fix recipes when they go upside down and how to avoid common mistakes. Let's learn how to bake a honey bread today. Here are the ingredients you'll need if you want to follow along. Please preheat your oven to 350 or 180 degrees Celsius and let's get started. You're going to need a 9 by 5 by 3 loaf pan, and you want it to be nonstick, or you're going to need to grease and flour it or line it with parchment paper. Even in nonstick pans, I like to use a piece of parchment paper on the bottom just to make sure that it will release. Set this aside, and then in a large bowl, we're going to need some flour. You can use plain all-purpose flour. I'm using 2.5 cups, 375 grams. To that, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 2 grams. 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 6 grams. 1/2 teaspoon of allspice, 1 gram. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2.5 grams. Now, if you want, you can use self-rising flour. You would just omit the baking soda and salt. Stir this together until it's well combined and set it aside. In another bowl, we're going to mix together 3/4 cup of softened butter, 170 grams, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 56 grams, and then we're going to use the honey. We're going to use a high quality honey, 1/2 cup, 168 grams. If you can get a local honey, it will be even better. Mix this until it's well incorporated and it looks nice and smooth and creamy like this, and then we're going to crack in the eggs, and we want to beat these one at a time. You want to make sure to beat them one at a time, because if you don't, they will curdle and make the batter not as tender. You want 3 total eggs, 150 grams. When I mean curdled, it will look like this. Now, at first it will want to break, but if you keep beating it between each egg, it will get fluffy and creamy again. You just want to make sure that you beat it really well and get that air incorporated before you add the next egg. It should be like this before you add in that following egg. Repeat this until there are no more eggs, and then you're going to move on to the next step. Now for the next step, you want to add the flour mixture in thirds, and then you're going to alternate with the milk. Stir this on a low speed, and you don't have to use a mixer, it just helps it, and you want it to be nice and fluffy. Scrape down the sides, give it another quick mix if you want, or just go ahead and add in some milk. We're going to use 1/2 cup of buttermilk, 120 milliliters, and you want to also add this in thirds. So you're going to add the flour mixture, then the buttermilk, the flour mixture, and the buttermilk. You want to mix it each time until it's nice and fluffy like this, and then add in a little bit more of that flour. By adding it in stages, you'll have a nicer, more tender crumb. If you add it all in at once, it can be oily and greasy, so it's worth this step, trust me. This is probably one of the more complicated recipes I do, and I don't make this often, just once a year. It actually tastes a lot like gingerbread, even though there is no ginger in this recipe. It's a really delicious bread. It's almost cake-like. Once you have it all incorporated, you are now going to pour this into your pan, and you're going to level it out the best you can. It's not imperative to have it completely level, but the more level you have it, the prettier the loaf will be as you bake it. Make sure you wipe down the edges if any of the batter gets on them. You want to bake this 50 to 60 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted in the middle comes out clean. You want the center to read between 200 to 210 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 93 to 99 degrees Celsius. You want to let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes before you remove it from the pan, and then also make sure to take that parchment paper off if you used it. Flip it right side up and let it cool completely before you slice it. Now, if you're using a darker pan, you might want to reduce that temperature 25 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius and bake it another 5 to 10 minutes. Now let's look at this bread. It is very tender. It's going to be a lot like a cornbread in texture, or maybe even a cake, because it's very sweet. It's almost a hybrid between a bread and a cake. It's really tasty, and it will remind you of gingerbread if you've ever had it. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Thank you for watching, and as always, happy baking!